In this video, I'm going to show you changes that were recently put into Grid Designer. The primary thing that we're going to look at is there's been a new uh, option added to the projects menu, which is called My Palettes. And this will allow you to create your own palettes. And those palettes can be used just like the predefined palettes that are in Grid Designer. I'm looking here at version Cloud.34.1. If you don't see this version here, you need to click the browser update button up here, and that should load software. If you check it again, then it should say Cloud 34.1, and that's the version you need to see the things that are in this demonstration. Okay, so we're going to go to My Palettes. Okay, that brings up this dialog. On the left side here, you've got your list of palettes, which is empty at the moment because I haven't added any. So it'll look like this when you open it up the first time. And then you'll have a palette list over here. And when you click on one of those palettes, you're going to see the colors in the palette listed on this right side here. So to add a palette for the first time, we click on Add Palette. And then we will put in a name. Let's say we'll call it My Spring Colors. And you can give it a description if you want, but it's not necessary. And there is an abbreviation that's required also. I'm just going to put MSC for My Spring Colors. And that abbreviation has to be unique. And it's used generally when you make groupings of palettes so that the color names can be, this is appended to the color names, so you can see when you group different palettes together, you'll be able to see which colors came from which palettes. So the abbreviation is used mostly for that. There's maybe some other places where it might be used, but that's a required field. So you have to have your name, and you have to have the required field, and then you have to have a type selected. General is something you could just select, but if you wanted to pick a particular, if you're grouping like multiple things maybe from different palettes that you want to pick out and you want to just, make and you want to pick a particular yarn weight that the palette applies to, you can do that. Or if it's floss or tile or beadwork or, quilting squares or whatever. Okay, so we're going to say add new then after we've got this done. And that's going to put our palette up here on the left side. Okay. Now there are no colors for the palette. So it says click edit colors to add colors. So that's going to be this button over here. Then we're going to go here where we can add colors to our palette. Right now we have nothing. This is going to be a list of colors over here that we're adding and working on. And as we work, and we add colors or modify them, we will be clicking on the Save Palette button down here. What we're doing is we're building a list here, in our browser, and that list is not saved until we click on Save Palette. So that's what's going to save that information to the database and make it kind of a permanent thing. Okay, so let's go in here, and right now there are 3 tabs in here. The first one is just allows you to select any color. So you can first generally you grab this slider on the right side here and you pick a particular color area or color hue that you want to use. And then you would click on here to get some variant of that. So this changes the saturation and brightness of the color that you picked on the bar on the right side. Okay, so generally you go to a color area that you want to work with, and then you select color from the big panel on here. Okay, and then you can give the color a name and you can add the color. Now that's the first category. Now the second category here will be importing colors from other palettes that currently exist. So these are the standard predefined palettes that are in Grid Designer, and you can pick any one of these. And once you add your own palettes, those will also be listed in here too. So you'll be able to select from previous palettes that you've made and select colors from those. Okay, so let's go and just pick something simple. I don't want to say anything too big. Let's pick the pastels here. Okay, and these don't correspond to any particular yarn. They're just a list of, some nice pastel colors in the palette that you can work with that would have colors like that in it. And once you select this, you notice that it changes down here when I select different ones. So you can see the list of colors that are down here. And now you can either click on a particular color and say add that color, or you can say add all the colors. So let's say add all the colors. Say you wanted to, start with a particular palette and you want all of those colors in there. Okay, so now we've got all of those colors in here. And if we wanted to go to another palette and select something in there and say add that color, then we're going to have that color over there. Now, as you're adding, you may want to order the colors, because you may want them to appear in a certain order when you see them, when you're working in Grid Designer. So say we want to put this one towards the end, and then we have these move forward and move backward buttons down here. So you select a color, and then you can move it somewhere else. So maybe we'll put the dark color out down at the end. Okay, you can also select a color and you can delete it from the list. Okay, so there's that. And you can also, if you're using the color in other places, but you want to mark it in your palette as being discontinued, you can also do that. So it will also do that. And the symbol with the line through it will show up in other places in Grid Designer when that color is listed for you to select. Okay, so you can do all of those things there. Okay, so that was importing colors and selecting colors. And then I also want to provide a place where we can put images in. So I want to be able to do quilt images. I want to be able to do, um, take photographs of quilting fabric and make squares out of them and use those quilted squares as the colors of they're not really colors anymore, but they're colors of my palette. Or another thing that I can think of to do is to use granny squares and use those as pictures that I could put in my palette. So I'm hoping to get this done by the end of the summer. So that's my next thing to work on. But for right now, you can select colors in this way where you're picking a specific color, or you can import the colors. Okay, and also when you're up here, when you're selecting colors, you can click on this up here. If you actually know the hex value of what you want to do, then you can just put that value in here too and just say add that color. You have to put a name in there. Um, it looks like a pale something, pale tan maybe. And then you can say add, oh, we have to click on new first. Yeah, let me go back and just say a little bit about this first. So anytime you want to add a color, you have to have the new button selected. But you can get to a color area. Say if you want a color that's close to this color, but maybe it's a darker one or something like that, you can click on this color first, and then you can move this to change, the color to somewhere else. And then you go back to new to enter your color in. Make it dark aqua. Okay. So, yeah, so that's the way it works. So basically, you have to have the new button selected in order to click the add color, and you have to have a name that you put in here. Um, and but you can preset, the color position to another by using like clicking on other colors. So if you click on other colors, or if we want to go to this blue and then pick a lighter blue, you can do that, and then you can click new and then say blue, add color, blue medium, add color. Okay. So that's the way that works. Now you can also change the hex value like I showed you down here, and you can change it. You can also select RGB values. This is red, green, and blue, or this is hue, saturation, and brightness, HSB colors down here. So you can actually put in the actual values that you want to have, and then this up here will adjust according to wherever you, whatever you set those to. Okay, and then you click add color to do that. Okay, so let's see, that's about it for this. And then as you're working, you may want to say save palette. That saves it to the Grid Designer database, and then say done. Okay, and now we return to our previous dialog where we had the list of all the colors in our palette. So you can also delete your palette. Delete will depend upon if you're using the palette. If something that you've created is using this palette, then it won't let you delete that particular palette. You'd have to go and remove it from your other projects, or remove those projects from Grid Designer before it would let you do that. So it will check to see if you're using the palette somewhere. If you want to update the information here, like say I wanted to add a description for this, then you just click on the palette that's up here, and then you click on description, and you can say some colors that I needed, or colors that I wanted, and then you can say update, and that will update that in the database. Okay. So that's about it. Now this palette works just like other palettes, and you'll start seeing once you create it, you'll be seeing it in other places. Like for instance, if we go to Project Palette, you'll now see My Spring Colors up here. So this is the palette that we just added with our colors in it. And it'll be listed, there's a line here that divides the things that are yours. These are groupings of palettes that are up here, and this is a user-defined palette here. So that line will define the difference between your own color, your own palettes, and Grid Designer's main palettes, the predefined palettes. Okay, so you can pick this. You can say use palette. If you have a certain project that was made with some other palette and you want to convert it to this palette, then the way to do that is to just go into the project palette area, say use the palette, and then this could be, a much more complicated drawing out here. Right now it only has red in it, but you can then use substitutions for the colors from your old palette to your new palette. And the quickest way to do that is there's a substitute closest for all. There's no red in that palette, so it's going to do that. Okay. Um, all right, so that's one way to use it. And then also if you do new project, then you will now see it down here in the list of palettes. And if you do create from image, where you load an image, then you will see the palette list over here on the right side. And you'll be able to select it from there too. So you can digitize images with your palettes. And you can do, you should be able to do anything that you do in Grid Designer with one of the normally defined palettes with your user defined palette. So there are a few restrictions right now. I have turned sharing off. If you have projects that are using one of your palettes, one of your user-defined palettes, then right now the sharing is off on that. So that's something I plan to work on after I get the images into the palette structure, and then so I'm hoping to be able to share those, but that'll be a kind of like a little bit of a complicated process because then another user has to have access to your palette, and there has to be some stuff going on there to manage that. So that's a separate piece of work that has to be done. So there's restriction on the sharing. So right now, when you make your palettes, you are the only person who sees your palettes. And there's no way for you to transfer that palette to another person right now. Hopefully, eventually we'll have an export for that and a way for other people to import your palette into their Grid Designer account and things like that. So that's coming down the road here. Okay, so I think that's about it. And hope everybody's having a great day. And thanks for listening. Bye bye.